it was a way to sort of like get emotions out.
Yeah.
And instead of like yelling and screaming at someone that I was mad at, then I just like scribble aggressively on the page and like crumple it up and throw it in the garbage. And then you're like, okay,
that's better.
It's great. Yeah.
Hi, Tara. Oh my gosh, I am so excited that you are here with me today. We are going to be talking about a topic that is near and dear to my heart, and that is healing and the creative arts. So I'm just excited to talk about it with you. And I would just love for you to tell everyone a little bit about you and about how you came to the dark side, AKA also known as the creative side.
Yes.
So welcome. Tell us a little bit about you.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. I have always loved creativity. Pretty much ever since I could hold a pen or pencil, I've been, drawing, coloring, painting. And it was always a way to sort of express myself because I was a very shy child. So it was a way to sort of like get emotions out.
Yeah.
And instead of like yelling and screaming at someone that I was mad at, then I just like scribble aggressively on the page and like crumple it up and throw it in the garbage. And then you're like, okay,
that's better.
It's great. Yeah. And then I
sometimes feel like more people need to do that these days.
Yes.
As a side note.
Just get it out and express it and understand it and then move on. Yeah. And then came the time when I had to decide, what do you want to do with your life? You need to like get a job and do work. And so I started university actually in science. So I studied physics, calculus, and chemistry. I did organic chemistry. I know all about those carbon atoms, and I know about why a car doesn't skid off the road when it goes around the corner because of friction and all of these things.
All these great things.
Yeah. So part of that I loved because I have always been really curious about why things happen or how they happen. But I got to a point where I realized I wasn't in a creative enough field, and it was very black and white. Yeah. And there was only one answer in calculus.
Yeah.
Only one right answer. And that's great, but I wanted to explore and experiment with other things.
Yeah.
So I ended up graduating with an English degree and then getting into a technical writing position at a software company.
Oh, wow.
And then I worked there for a while and worked with the marketing department, which was when I was starting to get more back to the creative side and realized, designing big pop-up banners and working on the website and doing brochures and pamphlets that our company was handing out at trade shows. It's like, this is really fun stuff. Yeah. I don't want to be doing the writing, technical writing anymore. I want to be doing more of this. And unfortunately, the company had about 2 or 3 years of, downturn, and they laid off about 12 people at once. And unfortunately, I was one.
Oh, no.
But it meant I could go back to school and get a diploma in graphic design.
Oh, that's cool.
And do creativity all day, every day, and really like focus on it. So that's the long answer of how I got to my creativity. But the whole time I was doing paintings in my spare time, and like I'd go to my software company job and then at night be going to the art school and doing watercolor classes, like it was always there. It was just because of how society sort of downplays the artistic fields, it was like, I'm going to be the cliche starving artist if I pursue this. So I can't make a living at it, but here I am making a living at it now. Right.
And here you are totally making a living. And so I find, I find this gets me into a question that I really want us to explore, which is like, we have such a preconceived idea of what creativity is or what it's supposed to look like. And most people, like I've talked to people and they're like, oh, I'm not creative because they're not a painter or a writer or an artist. And so like, I'm curious, how do you define, or how do you both define and relate to creativity?
So creativity as a definition for me is not looking at things in the sort of conventional way, but looking at things from all angles and then coming up with your own way of connecting the dots.
Yeah.
And exploring, what if I do something this way? What's the outcome then?
Yeah.
Or try this. And when I look at creativity that way, I mean, for artists, it's like, what if I mix these two colors instead of that one? What if I add a texture element in the paint? Right. How does that show up? Like a more three-dimensional painting than just flat paint on the canvas. But then with scientists and architects in any field, it's like, what if we, instead of doing it the same way we've always done it, we tried something new and different and really evolve what this thing is that we're doing. So that's how I see creativity.
And I hear in what you're talking about with the creativity is also it's like creativity is also a form of experimentation.
Yes, a form of experimentation, and also a way of expressing yourself, both emotions that you're feeling, so expressing those emotions, and also things that you just love. And, all of us, I can't say all of us girls as teenagers, but most girls as teenagers, unicorns and horses. That's all we love unicorns and horses. So just expressing that, whatever it is that you love, whatever it is that brings you joy. And there's so many ways to express that, whether it's dance or music. Like a piece of music alone can make me feel the emotions.
Yeah.
That the person who wrote it and performed it was feeling.
Yeah.
So once you get to that level of creativity, regardless of what you're doing, you can help evoke an emotion and experience for other people through what you're doing. Yeah.
And I think creativity and that experimentation and that like capability of evoking an experience for others, it can be found in so many fields that are beyond what we like conceive of as the traditional arts. Like an example that I have is my mom used to loves gardening, right? And she used to make these like masterpiece backyard experiences for everybody. So where are some of the places that you see creativity is present that maybe some people don't see it there themselves as a part of their experience?
Yeah, so definitely I find new city planning that happens in some larger cities is really getting creative, making spaces multifunctional so that they're not just a park for the 5-year-old kids anymore. It's a park with, maybe there's a chessboard set up in a permanent location with this beautiful granite top that's, made especially for that location, with some gardening area, like you say, and then there's a spot for the kids and a spot for other people, so that it's really becoming more of a community project.
Yeah.
Where it's not just, okay, we need a green space, so we'll put some grass down and a couple trees and that's it.
All good.
Yeah, we're done, right? So that's one way. And also rethinking buildings. A lot of times now when architects are building a building, there's often storefronts or restaurants or cafes on the main levels now instead of just residential areas.
Yeah.
So then you bring that commercial side, and again, you're sort of building a community within one building instead of just like the coffee shops here, you know, the stores over there, the apartments are here. It's all sort of integrated.
Yeah. I love how you keep bringing in community, because I feel like that's also a component of creativity that can. So I know that we wanted to explore like creativity and healing. And I feel like community can be a part of that healing component. So how do you feel like there is a bridge that's created between creativity, healing, and like community involvement, community coming together? That's kind of a beautiful part of creativity.
Yeah. So many things I'm thinking of right now.
I did, and I kind of asked a like really multifaceted question, so I do apologize for that.
Oh, no worries. No. But for me personally, creativity has really helped my own healing, because it allowed me to sort of pause with what was happening. The overthinking in my head, the self-doubt, the negative self-talk, and just find out where that's coming from. And then being able to take the next steps of, okay, now I know where it's coming from. How do I fix it and get rid of it? And I think the community part is that it's so much more beautiful to experience and enjoy things when it's with other people, you know, your friends and people within your community. And it always amazes me when crises happen, how we tend to come together. And it's the small acts of kindness and the creative ways that we quickly innovate. Like, for example, where I'm from, the majority of the city is really small businesses. Like, one family might run a shop.
Right.
And a lot of them have been, you know, holding back on getting into technology, selling things online.
Right.
And then when COVID happened, they were sort of forced into it. And so within 2 weeks, these little like mom and pop shops that some of them might not have even taken anything but cash before were forced into, okay, now we have to like rethink everything. So they like got a website together, got online shopping happening, and curbside pickup, which I found amazing, because they were still serving their community. They were doing it in creative ways. And, you know, the community was showing that gratefulness by continuing to shop with them.
Yeah.
And so when everything, you know, changes back to how the new normal is going to be, you know, you're going to still have those people around in the community, and you remember how creatively they solved the problem and got you what you needed. So you're more likely to support them going forward.
Yeah. I also see sometimes like when we do our own creative expression or healing, especially in an artistic fashion, whether it's music or artwork or anything like that, it also can create connection with others that maybe have had the same challenge.
Yes. Yeah. It unites people. And I think that's partly why we have this global connection right now, where everybody's realizing, wait, we are a lot alike, because no one is immune from this pandemic, right? Anybody can get it. And we're all feeling isolated and cut off from certain people that we're used to seeing all the time, and our routines are different.
Yeah.
And so when that happened at a smaller scale, it really connected people, because you've been through the same things, you felt the same emotions, and possibly you got through it in the same way by using creativity and art, or you maybe went to an art therapist to help get you through that and process all those emotions.
Right.
So, yeah.
How have you used creativity to help you either process through emotions or heal, either like now or just kind of over your lifetime? Have there been tools that you have used for yourself?
I definitely have found watercolors both extremely frustrating because they're really hard to paint
It's
with.
true.
Yeah.
They can be really challenging. Yep.
But also very freeing because they're so challenging and you can just put color on the page and blend them so easily as opposed to other paint mediums.
Yes.
So I always go back to watercolors, and some of the first artwork that I really enjoyed doing is putting washes of color down and then just like taking other dark, really strong pigments of color and just splattering it everywhere to get this really abstract, almost, what's his name? Is it Jason Pollock? Pollock?
Jack Pollock.
Jack Pollock. Yeah.
Jack Pollock? Yeah.
Jack Pollock. I know it again eventually. Yeah, sort of like his aesthetic of just chaos, but it's still beautiful in its own way, right?
Yeah.
And for me, I've struggled with depression and anxiety in my past, and art and creativity was always something that I could rely on to bring joy. So even in those really dark days when I didn't want to leave the house, I didn't want to see any other people, I could still open up the sketchbook and do some art
and find some joy
and bring some joy, or look at somebody else's art and appreciate what they've been doing, without comparing. Put that caveat in there.
Yeah. That comparison will steal that joy quicker than anything.
Exactly. Yeah. So seeing other people's work, and I love seeing other people's process. So thank you, YouTube. Because you sort of get to like pull back the curtains on any artist around the world if they've shared any process videos, or most recently those string pull artwork.
Yeah. Those are fun.
They're so beautiful, and it's just string and paint. You're like,
right.
How did that happen?
Who thought of that? It was so simple.
Yeah, it was so simple, and boom, there's a beautiful thing that's abstract, and the colors are blended so beautifully. Yeah. So.
And so what do you feel like is at the core of the healing process? Like, I guess, how would you define what healing is?
For me, it's really blocking all of the external factors.
Yeah.
And all of those, like, why don't you try this? Or you should be doing that. And blah, 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 and really focusing on, like, what do I need? And really listening to what's going on in my own heart and brain. Because that's truly, I know everyone doesn't want to hear it, but that's where the healing happens.
It does.
It's not someone swooping in and being like, okay, I have your healing list, and you do this.
This is your protocol.
And this. Yeah, this, and this, and then you're done. You're going to be good, because they're not you. They don't have all your experiences. They don't know what you're going through. Yeah. So their list isn't going to be what's exactly right. I mean, you can definitely get help from therapists and professionals.
Absolutely.
To guide you, but
get new questions or inspiration.
Yeah. But really all they're doing is getting it out of you, right?
Yes. hopefully the coach there is like drawing it out of you. Yes.
Yeah. So that's the biggest part of healing, is just listening and trusting to what you truly need.
And I hear a lot of presence in that, which is cool, because what I heard was, it's like being present to what you need, where you're at. And when you described your process with the like going and doing painting when you were struggling with the depression and anxiety, it was about finding the tool that helped you come into presence. So using art or using creativity, I think of, my mom or some of my friends who love gardening, and I do not. I don't want to get, I would like to wear gloves at all times if it comes to the dirt, but I'm also a massage therapist. So I'm really weird about I want to keep my hands nice and clean. So when I go to do my massages, but there was so much presence that I know those that work in the dirt and those that do the gardening, it brings them into the present moment. And it is a creative act of planning and figuring out and thinking through. So I kind of that was a connection I saw that I just kind of wanted to call out or call in a little bit, because I thought it was so beautiful, that connection.
Yeah, definitely. And also, if I had the space, I would totally have a garden.
Right.
Yeah, because it's an experience where all of the senses are sort of stimulated, where
I've never thought of it that way.
Yeah, the blooming rose, is wafting up to you, and you're planting something that's gonna bloom in the fall, and you get to feel the leaves and all the different textures, and you get to see all the colors. Yeah. So it's like a stimulation for all of the senses. And
I love that you said that, because I honestly, this is silly, but I've never really thought of it that way. Only because I think when I was younger, it was more like I had to do all the weed eating, because that was the kid job. Go weed the garden. And of course it was miserable and hot and I hated it. So it kind of turned me off of gardening forever.
Yes. And there's bees.
Not really. Right. There's
insects and bees. Yeah.
But I think that's true. And I think when we can find things that help us engage all of our senses, it's that experience of bringing us into the present, bringing us into the body, which can bring us into healing. And I also, one of the things that you said I really loved is I also feel like healing is a process. It's not you're not going to get that secret recipe and then check, you're done. It's over. You're healed. Hallelujah, sort of thing. I think that can happen, but I also think that it's a healing is an evolution. It's a journey.
Yes. Yeah. And it's not linear. So you might have an amazing, great day where you're like, oh, I'm good. It's all behind me. And then the next day is the worst day you've had in 6 months.
Yeah.
And there's no rhyme or reason to it, but that's just how healing happens.
Yeah.
One day to the next can be totally different.
I saw a really cool drawing that was talking about that. And it was like squiggles and then a line and then squiggles and then a line and then squiggles and then a line. And the squiggles got less and less as they went, through. The first squiggle was all over the place. The squiggles were like a giant nest. And then as they went through, it was just kind of you could see the squiggly lines. But I thought that was what you're saying is that if we can have that level of grace and compassion with ourselves, that it's going to be a journey, and also play with the creativity, the experimentation, the being present, then we give ourselves grace and space to come to a place of healing on the other side, or a place of wholeness on the other side, whatever kind of healing looks for each person.
Yes.
So what are some things that you try and do or trying to work on to boost your own creativity?
So I definitely try to keep trying new things.
Yeah.
And that's also to keep the perfectionist at bay, because if you do one and only one thing forever, then you become so good at it that even the smallest little error just ruins everything for you.
Yeah.
So trying new things also allows you to grow, because you're trying new things, you're learning new things, you're probably meeting new people because you have a new interest or new hobby. One thing that I started over the winter was I wanted to try a new craft that was not related to the computer, because I'm a graphic designer. So I sit there all the time doing graphic design. So I decided I'm going to try crochet. So thanks again, YouTube.
Yay,
there's
YouTube.
So many tutorials. Because the written ones are like double crochet, single crochet, then double two crochet together. And you're like,
and
I don't know what that
I just
means.
need somebody to show me. Like, just show me how to do this.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's tons of YouTube videos that show you everything. So the short story is I learned how to crochet, and I've made like
that's awesome
2 or 3 blankets through quarantine because I'm like, well, I guess I'll just keep crocheting.
I love it. Yes. I love it.
So definitely try new things. And then because of those new things, you also get to take parts of creativity from other things you've learned and apply it to that new skill.
Yes.
So working with color combinations on granny squares is so fun.
Right?
And you can have endless color combinations.
I love it.
And working with different types of yarn and weights of yarn and different textures, and like I could go on for days.
I love it.
You get the idea.
Yes, I do.
So trying new things. Also keep working on what I already know and love. So if I feel I'm an expert at a certain thing, keep doing it and keep experimenting and trying, because otherwise you get stagnant on things, or you forget things, especially certain tasks. If you don't keep using in those muscles, you're not going to keep up and be strong enough when you need to do that task again.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And definitely also reaching out to my community, whether it's here or through a social media platform, and just chatting with people online and being, things like typography I also love. So like when someone does an amazing hand lettered thing, like I'm going to call them out and be like, you're amazing and you should own that.
Right? For sure.
And usually they're like, oh, I just like tried it and it was just my weekend. And I'm like, you're amazing.
Stop with the humbleness.
Yeah, exactly.
You are amazing. Come on now.
Yes.
I love that. I love, so often we get into that place of trying to compare ourselves, especially if we're trying something new and somebody else tries it and it's their first time and it's our first time and they're way better than we are. It can sometimes shut us down. But I love how what you're doing is like you're saying, no, let's celebrate them and let's still play and have fun. I hear a lot of play and have fun while you're kind of like learning. Yeah,
definitely. Because if it's not fun, then why are you doing it? Like that's my whole theme song of my life, right?
I'm with you. Yes. We're not getting joy out of this. What are we doing this for, man? But why?
Yes. Yeah. I keep thinking back to that like 50s or 60s mentality of like, oh, I hate my job, but I have to go every day because, I've got my pension that I'm going to get and I'm going to retire and, I can't stand any of my coworkers. And I'm like, then why don't you change something? Like,
right?
You have to be happy.
What are you doing?
Yeah. Definitely.
I love it. I also wanted to talk a little bit about, like, you brought up that perfectionist voice. So I am certain I have struggled and struggle with the perfectionist voice, as you, I'm sure, do.
Oh,
as
yes.
Most creatives do.
Yes.
How do you find ways to, I want to say combat the perfectionist, but I also feel like that's a really harsh term. Like I'm not trying,
Yeah, we don't want to beat it up.
We don't want to beat it up. But how do you support the evolution of the perfectionist? How do you kind of like make amends or make peace with? I think is probably the best way I'd like to say it. Make peace with that perfectionist voice.
Right. Well, it's definitely true that I'm my worst critic and my harshest critic. Mm-hmm. And most people, they initiate an idea and then they get so far and then they just shut down.
Yeah. And
they say, no, not going to do that. So how I challenge my perfectionist is, instead of what if you fail, think of the opposite of, what if you succeed? What if this takes off?
Yeah.
You know? And usually it lands somewhere in the middle. Like, no, I'm not going to be the next YouTube superstar like Joe Rogan, but, you know, I'll probably make some amazing connections out of doing something like this.
Yeah.
And, you know, yes, there might be a few negative things, but overall it's going to be positive.
Right.
So that's one way. Another way is, as soon as I start noticing those negative voices in my head, I have named my imposter syndrome Steve.
Oh my God, I named mine too. I love it, Steve.
Yes, and it's usually either perfectionism or imposter syndrome that is that negative voice. It's Steve. Yeah. And so I say, Steve, you need to shut the bleepity bleep, bleep, bleep,
bleep, bleep, bleep, bleep, bleep, bleep, bleep, bleep.
And go sit in the corner because you're not helping right now.
Right.
Right. And especially because I'm a creative, like a professional creative, and this is how I make my living. Yeah. So I can't just not do things throughout the day if imposter syndrome creeps up, because I have deadlines and I need to meet those deadlines to get my paycheck.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I've really started to embrace that, like, no, you need to go now. And it works most days. Sometimes it's more of a struggle.
Right.
But it works most days. And another thing is really embracing a routine. Routine is really big for me. And it's what I think upset me most when the pandemic first hit, was that nothing's the same anymore. We can't go to the grocery store. We can't do this. We can't do that. You're just like, I don't know what to do. So having a strict routine, and for me, that means going for a walk every morning. Mm-hmm. And I'm blessed to live on the Atlantic Ocean. So
you have a nice place to go.
A nice ocean view that I can, like this morning, the fog was very thick. So you can hear the foghorns of the ferry that transports people across the harbor, the foghorns from the lighthouse, and then you could hear the seabirds, because they're amazing. Yeah, their sound really travels farther in the really dense, wet fog.
That's cool.
Yeah, and then the waves. Yeah. So you just get this experience of, like you said earlier, of this is the moment you're in. Just enjoy it and celebrate it. And I take that time to sort of like set an intention for the day of, okay, here are the tasks I have to do. Right. And here's how I'm going to achieve them. And here's some creative ways that I might be able to do that. Yeah. So that really sets me up to not overthinking everything. When the perfectionism starts to creep in, I can just be like, no, I already got a plan. This is
we got it. We're good. Thanks.
Yeah. And then also having that time for yourself first thing in the morning, I find it also really sets the tone for the day of me being able to keep up my boundaries when people are trying to like ask me to work overtime or work more or do more. It's more like, no, not today.
Having those clear boundaries is so powerful. And I feel like it's something that we can overlook, especially that initial boundary with ourselves.
Yes.
To take that time for ourselves, you know?
Yes, because if you're anything like me, we were taught, you do your homework and then you get to watch TV.
Right? You get rewarded.
You don't get to watch TV and then do your homework.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is, I was the same way. So there's definitely like a flip that I've kind of switched of like, okay, I'm going to give you 30 minutes of reading your book and then we're going to go work for an hour. And it's actually worked better for me than let's go work for an hour. And then you can have, your 30 minutes as a reward. It's almost like let me just take a moment to decompress and to, move to something else. Cause I work best kind of, it sounds like a little bit like you, like I like the structure.
Yes.
I tend to call it rhythm, there's like a
Yes.
rhythm, and I function best with that little time in the morning. And then like, I'll do an activity and then I'll do a self-nurture activity, whether it's meditation, go for another walk, do some reading for myself, and then work, and then another piece of self-nurture. So it's like this, like, I'm going to reward myself all along the way so that I feel good throughout the day.
Yeah, definitely. And I find those little breaks help bring more creativity to the next task.
Yes.
Because, and especially when, because I work for several different people, I might have a short task for one person, and then I take a break. Maybe I brew a new cup of tea, go out on the balcony for a few minutes, take a few deep breaths, enjoy the sunshine. Maybe it doesn't even have to be 15 minutes. It could only be 10 minutes.
Right.
And then go back inside, start the next task. And that it's almost like you're recharging your battery before it's even half dead, right?
Yes,
so you're always like, your creativity tank is always full at maximum level.
Yeah.
Because you don't let it completely drain.
Yeah. I think that's also like a big part of healing too, that we overlook. And I think that there's that relationship to like creativity in its essence is very energizing, which becomes very healing to someone who, to a culture who lives in do. Oh, and when you're done, do some more.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
I've done enough.
You haven't done enough. Go do some more. Oh, you still haven't done enough. Please go do more. But I think there's such a beautiful component of this piece of when we allow ourselves to actually be recharged, the creativity can be healing. The recharge for the creativity can be healing. And when we work both of those in, it's this beautiful rhythm of dancing with life, which I find incredible.
Yes. Yeah. And there's that balance. Like, I look at it as having a really strong balance. Yeah. And when you take care of yourself and all aspects of yourself, your mind, your body, your heart, your soul, like all aspects.
All aspects.
Yeah. Let's cover all the bases. Then you're able to step up when you're needed, whether it's, a friend is in need or someone comes along with a project that is behind and they need you to take that on. You have the energy and ability to do that.
Yeah.
If you're always drained.
Yep. You have nothing to give. No,
you have nothing to give.
Yeah.
And I've been at that point with some jobs in the past where I'm like, you already took everything.
I have nothing.
What else? That Adam Levine, what do you want from me?
Right. Yes. Oh my God.
Like,
I hear you. As I'm sure some of our listeners also agree. They're like, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I love, and I kind of wanted to play with something you said, kind of like tripped this question for me. And I think it'd be a fun question is, so often we think creativity and healing are two separate things.
Right.
How can we get creative with our healing?
Ooh. Yeah. I think as humans, number one, we overthink everything.
Amen.
Yeah. And number two is we want to put everything in little boxes of categories. And then this is this, and that's only where it is. Yeah. Where how my brain works is like, that's where it is, but it's also got like a foot in here and an arm over there and a leg in that box.
Yes. It's
also, like everything is connected and integrated.
Yeah.
And you can't compartmentalize things that way, especially when it comes to healing, because there's so many different things happening in whatever you're dealing with, right? Whether it's your physical body after being in a vehicle accident, or post-traumatic stress if you're in a traumatic event. You can't just compartmentalize it in your daily life, or how you think or how you feel.
Absolutely.
So getting creative in ways of healing, I think, is also how can we, and this is going to be a big ask to all of our listeners, but how can we change how we approach healing?
Yeah.
Right. How can
100%.
we use therapies and techniques in different ways that are more conscious of that and not so isolating?
Yes.
Yeah. And that today we're only gonna treat your knee.
Right.
Right.
Focus on this one compartment.
Yeah. And that's all I'm going to talk to you about is does it move? Does it hurt? And then, okay, bye.
That's it. Right? We're good. It makes me think of, we often can be so top down, like head, then other. And sometimes I feel like we need to flip it and be like, instead of top down, we need to be, down up. We need to be body centered, moving outwards and upwards, and going, in instead of seeking outside for it's kind of like that coming in and coming down is maybe a way for us to reevaluate how healing can happen, and using all different kinds of creative outlets. Like every time somebody tells me, oh, I can't do that, then I often follow it up with, and it sounds like it's the perfect thing for you to try.
Yes.
Because
challenge yourself.
What do you have to I can't sing, but I can do some crazy weird screaming when I need to express some emotion, and I'm cool with it. And sometimes I can sing. Sometimes an angelic voice comes out and I'm like, who possessed me? That's weird. But that was fun. Right.
Yeah.
So I find that there's moving my body in new and creative ways, and using art, and using also the analytical, understanding the thought process, thinking in a new way, asking super open-ended questions. I think all of those really are kind of saying creativity and healing. We can be creative about our healing.
Mm-hmm.
We can incorporate how we look at and ask that question that you just said, which was, how can we heal differently? And I know that's not exactly how you said it, but paraphrasing.
Yeah.
I'm not perfect. I don't have the written memory either. I'm not really the best at that part. But I love that. So maybe we can all just lovingly challenge ourselves to heal in creative ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
And to see that there's multiple parts. I love how you're like, we're going to talk about the knee today and nothing else.
Yeah. I mean, that's what happens when you go to your physiotherapist, right?
Doctor or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
And here it was as a massage therapist. I'm like, let's talk about your knee. And also let's do some energy work. And also, was there some trauma that happened? Did you twist this knee really bad? Was there an argument that was prior to? Is there some emotional stuff that's still left in the tissues that we just need to, there's multiple layers here.
Yes. We need more of you in the world.
I love it. It's so much fun. Healing to me is like a giant puzzle. And it's not a matter of if I can, it's just a matter of being present to find the pieces, because they're all there. You just have to find it.
And patient.
And patience. Think about how many times you were trying to flip all the little pieces of the puzzle and you can't find the one piece. And then you come back the next day and you're like, oh, it's right there.
Mm-hmm.
Have patience.
Yes, exactly.
I love it. Well, this has been absolutely wonderful. I have really enjoyed our fun conversation around creativity and healing. And I just absolutely adore you. I think you're absolutely amazing. And I want everyone to know about not only you and where they can find you, but also the Creative Conflab, your awesome podcast. So Please Yeah. Please share with everybody. Where can we find you and stalk you and fall in love with you?
Awesome. Well, I am just about everywhere with multiple channels. So Creative Conflab, you can find at creativeconflab.com.
Perfect.
And then from there, there's a whole bunch of social media channels that you can stalk me on. And then
Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of them. I do follow her. She's amazing.
Thank you. And then for illustration work and graphic design, you can find me at tarajoy.ca.
tarajoy.ca. I love it.
Yes. And similarly, all the social media channels are Tara Joy Andrews. So
Tara Joy Andrews. Well, I'm just going to find all of them now because I didn't know about those.
Yeah, you can follow me probably 12 times.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love it. Well, thank you so much for being here with me today. Man, I hope you have a wonderful day.
Well, thank you for having me, and the same to you. I hope you have an amazing day.
Thanks.
Bye.